Right. Yeah. So we are online. We'll start. I think Varun will connect to the everything else is set, he said. So I
Okay.
think we should be starting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So banners starting. Yeah. So banners starting. Yeah. No, it's our banner is not seen. Let me see. It's our banner is not seen. Let me see. It's our banner is not seen. Let me see. Okay. Okay. We'll start.
Why there is so much of squeaky sound coming?
Yeah, there is some sound of coming. Yeah. Yeah.
Now it went.
Okay. Now it went. Yeah. Right. So, shall we start the session?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Shoot out.
Yes. So, good morning, everybody, and good morning, Vibhuti.
Good
Lovely
morning.
to
Good morning
meet
to
you today.
everybody. Good evening to everybody, wherever you are,
Yes.
wherever you are watching from.
Absolutely. So today we are at the second episode. During the last episode, we looked at what are the strengths that we have as a culture, as a civilization. We looked into Sanatana Dharma. Today we are looking into more details so that we understand what are the strengths of Sanatana Dharma. We discussed what is Sanatana Dharma during the last session. Today we are discussing what are the strengths of Sanatana Dharma and who better to do it other than Vibhuti with. So he has been doing it for such a long time, explaining to people of different cultures. So I'm sure that this is going to be a wonderful session. So shall we discuss what exactly are the strengths of Sanatana Dharma?
Girijaa ji, first of all, I would like to say that we are in this show together, and I'm not an expert, so it is a mutually sharing opportunity.
Absolutely.
For you as well.
Absolutely.
So I would like to say that you hit out first. You are the opening batsman.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. So thank you for that opportunity. So we say that, when we talk about Sanatana Dharma, the most beautiful value that strikes us is that inclusiveness, right? So several things happened during the course of time after Sanatana Dharma has been found, but even though there have been many changes and a lot of different cultures came in, Sanatana Dharma went on absorbing everything. It never repelled anything that is new. So, like a bicycle, it went on, a bicycle keeps standing only when it is moving. So, the steadiness comes only because of its movement. So, I think Sanatana Dharma, like any wheel, rather, I would say, that it has been absorbing things. Inclusivity is something very beautiful that I have observed about Sanatana Dharma, right? So what would you like to say about that?
You have hit the nail on the head in terms of
Yeah.
defining the part of it. Sanatana Dharma is
Yes.
actually the most inclusive belief system in the world.
Absolutely.
It is inclusive of everything. It is completely non-discriminatory in nature.
Right.
It believes in scientific principles, and we don't have to go too far to know that, because it is
Absolutely.
all about the natural laws, the world as is. As a result
Very
of
true.
which, as a result of which, we know that in terms of modern definition, we are the true liberal democracy practicing faith, Sanatana Dharma. It does not stipulate any conditions on anyone. You are free
Exactly.
to do, you're free to pray, you're free to believe, so long as your karma defines you. Your
Absolutely.
karma defines you. There is no path to heaven.
Yeah.
There is no path to heaven. There is no sin. It's you as you are. So whether you pray or don't, doesn't
Yes.
matter. It is your belief.
Absolutely.
Whatever gets the best out of you as a human being in nature,
Yeah.
you become that. And it is truly sad that the most inclusive religion in the world is treated as an exclusive element by
Absolutely.
Abrahamic faiths. And
Yes.
that's a narrative that we need to talk about. That when we
Very
talk
true.
about freedom of religion, well, here is a very interesting question at a political and social level, which I realized living in America when you discuss with so many people. So
Yeah.
I asked this Christian gentleman, he was having a talk on Hindu belief and Sanatan Dharma, and he said that I asked him this question, that where does your faith actually offer freedom? Because you believe in Jesus is the only way. I have no
Yeah.
objection to your belief because we are
Yes.
Sanatanis. We don't object to or say you are wrong. You
Yeah.
are happy believing that Jesus is the only way, good for you. But don't tell
Exactly.
me I'm wrong. So if you are believing that Jesus is the only way, that means you are not giving me the freedom to make my choice. So are you
Very
a
true.
real true faith? So that's an element that we need to understand and convey to the world. And I said to them that we do not proselytize that Jesus alone will take you to heaven, because in our concept, heaven and earth is all here.
Very true. Absolutely. So when actually I was just reading about Buddhism,
Mhm.
and I read that Buddhism came as a revolt to idol worship. But then as time passed, then all the Buddhism shrines began to have the statue of Buddha.
Right,
So even Hinduism incorporated that. Even Buddha was accepted as an avatar. So
right,
Sanatan Dharma accepts even Buddha as an avatar. So
right.
Buddhism, Jainism, all the different various aspect, faiths have been built into Sanatana Dharma.
Correct,
So nothing has been rejected. There is so much room for diversity, opportunity to be yourself,
correct.
right?
Very
So
true.
Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, all these have been part of Sanatana Dharma. That's what a religion. The maximum religions, I think, must have originated in India,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
more than any other country in the world, perhaps.
Correct.
Um,
Because there was true
yeah,
freedom. Because there was true freedom.
absolutely, absolutely. So, like you said, it does not divide humanity into believers and non-believers. You know that if you don't believe in this particular God, then you are a non-believer.
Correct.
If you don't do this, follow this kind of a ritual, then you are a non-believer.
Correct.
Sanatana Dharma doesn't ever say that. So each one to his own, whatever you like, right? So we have, we all have different personalities, and even the gods have different personalities, and people have the freedom to choose whoever they like and worship that.
That's
That
right.
is the beauty. Yeah. So another aspect of the value of Sanatan Dharma that we can discuss is also perhaps truth, right? So
Yeah.
we say that Sanatan Dharma talks about truth, that is, which is eternal and universal. So it never says my truth has to be your truth, and it doesn't say what was yesterday's truth has to be the truth forever.
That's
So
right.
it is, like you said, it is as scientific as science can be. Like science, in science, any law that is proposed is, any hypothesis is open to rejection, open to questioning. Similarly, in the Sanatan Dharma, everybody is allowed to question.
That's right.
And in fact, it is a quest. It is
Correct.
a quest. You are more questioning about yourself. It is our journey into our own selves rather than anything else.
Absolutely true. And as you mentioned earlier on, that
Yeah.
so many religions have emanated from Sanatan Dharma, right? So
Yes.
many. So whether it's Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Arya Samaji, Brahma Samaji, Brahma Kumari,
Wow.
everything is part of the process. Nobody says Brahma
Absolutely.
Kumaris are wrong because they
Yes.
are following a particular way of life. But
Absolutely.
on the contrary, Brahma Kumaris also embrace everybody who comes to them. There is a non-discriminatory practice out there. So we have to understand this part, and we have to take the message of truth elsewhere, because
Yes.
the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam has been totally misunderstood. Because in the
Exactly.
creation, if the God has created this universe, he
Yes.
gave us sun, gave us air, gave us water, and other panchatattva that we know, right?
Absolutely.
That is what we are made of. Every single individual, any single life on the planet Earth is made up of certain components which is God given. Right? So there
Absolutely.
is one earth, one sun, there is
Yes.
same water, the trees perform the same functions,
Yes.
everywhere it is the same. That's the important part for the world to recognize. Because God did not create religion. Let's be very clear. God did
Absolutely.
not
It is
create
we who
religion.
created it.
Nobody has seen God, but some
Yes.
smart people use God's name to propagate a certain point of view, to
Yes.
exploit the gullibility and fear factor of the individuals. So today
Yeah.
we all know that thunder and lightning doesn't happen because gods are angry, right?
Right. Yes.
Tsunami and floods and extreme weathers don't happen because God wants to punish people of that particular area. It doesn't.
Very true.
It's a
Exactly. Yeah.
natural phenomenon. And remember one thing, it's
Yes.
very interesting to note
Uh,
that whenever a natural disaster happens,
right.
nobody blames God. You know?
Yes. Except the insurance policies, which will say it is an act of God. So,
That's right, right, right. So
yes,
that's
insurance
again man-made.
policies have.
That's
Yes.
again man-made. So it is very
Man.
important for everybody to understand
Yeah.
that we must recognize that element in all of us.
Yeah.
The equality element that comes from, that you are all equal. We are all equal. Our
Yes.
brain wiring may be different in different people, but
Right.
our physical structure between a man and a woman is identical, performing
Yes.
identical functions.
Absolutely.
So
Throughout the
we know,
world, whatever be the race, creed,
right,
religion, whatever it
right,
is.
right.
Yeah.
And
A child which is
as
3 year
zero
old
research
throughout
has
the world,
proved,
whether he is born in Africa or in India, the three
exactly,
months old child does the same thing. 3 year old does the same thing.
same thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
think about it like this. So I have, I'm little. Sometimes I get blunt. Sometimes I'm funny, and I ask people that, hey, listen,
Yeah.
in the natural law of things, every woman takes
Yeah.
9 months to deliver a normal, regular child. There is no
Absolutely.
exception to the rule. And nobody's God has altered that plan at all. It remains identical for everybody, right? So
Very true.
what do we argue for? Like what do we say? Why do we fight that my way or highway? Sanatana Dharma
Exactly.
doesn't teach that. What is important here, and that's where the responsibility of us Indians and Hindus is, that we don't proselytize,
Yes.
we have to propagate. The Indian
Absolutely. We have
constitution
been
allows.
quietly accepting everything that comes
Correct,
our way, and we believe, okay, Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, so we have to be united. We have to accept that the whole world is one village.
right,
But then, when there are differences, we are ready to accept that.
correct.
But whatever completely takes you away from Sanatan Dharma, we should realize that that is not for our good.
No, it is not.
Yeah,
And this is
absolutely.
the time for
Yes.
us
To
particular,
awaken. Yes.
awaken
Yes.
people to
Yes.
universal truths. That's what is
Absolutely.
important. And as science and technology has advanced, this is
Yes.
very important. As
Ah,
science advances, the veil of ignorance and fear disappears. So
yes.
today, if you look at in the coronavirus impacted world, all the
Yes.
people who were magicians saying that
Everybody disappeared.
it disappeared.
Yeah,
Thankfully so. I would put it this way that,
absolutely.
I always say, Girijaa, you know that my favorite theme is that every disaster brings about an opportunity. I think
Yes.
this is the opportunity for the global people to
Yeah,
realize that just as coronavirus did not discriminate against anybody, this is God's lesson to everybody. Don't fight in the
exactly.
name of religion. Respect is a key word.
Absolutely.
Respect
Yes.
another life as is. Respect
Yeah,
and accept every life as is. That's the beautiful message of Sanatan Dharma, which is what we must propagate and talk about it more often than required, and also repeat it. because it's only
Very
when
true.
in repetition that something becomes part of our body. Because it
Yeah.
is a very important lesson that we have learned, and I will give you a very live example of that.
Yeah.
Remember when we started driving the first day? I'm asking every viewer to
Yeah.
recall the first day when he took the car key or motorcycle key to ride the bike or drive the car. What an exciting day it was. We had a sense of freedom. I can drive a car or a mobile. But
Right.
remember, starting from putting the key in the ignition hole and
Right.
kicking or starting the car, what number of drills we performed,
Absolutely.
right? Today,
Yes.
today, after as many years of driving experience, it has become part of an automaticity of body. We do not need
Absolutely. It's a
anybody to
routine. Yeah.
get into that. We begin doing that, and that's what is
We are
important.
not even conscious
We are not
where
even.
we are sometimes.
You are
Yeah,
you are
exactly.
now
How
in a
many
state
cars
of
you passed,
unconscious
how many
awareness.
lampposts you passed, how many signals you passed, which shop was open, nothing we are aware of. Right?
That's
Yes,
what is
absolutely.
important. Automaticity comes, and that comes from learning, repeating.
Yes.
Nobody gave us a
Reflex.
license because we mugged up the manual of how to drive a car. Nobody,
Absolutely.
nobody gave us. You did not learn swimming by reading a book, nor can you
Absolutely.
play
Yeah. We have
cricket
to practice.
or
Yes.
golf
Yes.
by reading a book. You had to go in it, and that's what
Yes.
Sanatan Dharma's principles we forgot, that we have
Yes.
to live those principles between
Yeah,
us.
every day
No.
when we face differences, it
Yes,
is for us to, there are lots of situations in life
correct,
when we face dilemmas.
correct.
It
And,
is at that point of time, it has to guide us. It has to be our guiding spirit and it has to come naturally to us. Like, you are walking the street and you see that a car is coming across and there is a blind person. You don't question at that point of time, should I do this or should I do not do it? You just go and do it. That's it. Just,
right,
you are there to help the person out. That's it.
right,
You don't
correct.
question yourself.
That's
So
right.
that should be the natural way of living,
That's right.
right? Yes, absolutely. And also
Respect,
the adaptability,
respect and acceptance are the
most
two key
important.
words that humans need to practice. Respecting another life, respect
Yes,
and accepting another life the way they are.
they are.
That's what is
Absolutely.
important. Like unless we do that,
Yeah,
we will aggravate the differences more than anything else. And I say this
absolutely.
very openly to
Yeah,
various religious people, that be your religious self. Don't tell the
right.
other one that they are wrong. You know,
Absolutely.
whether you are a Sikh, Muslim, Christian, Jew, whatever you are,
Live
just
and let live.
live and let live. That James Bond movie
Exactly.
was absolutely relevant with his
Right.
title. Yeah,
Very true. Adaptability, we all talk about adaptability, but, we all say that, dinosaurs became extinct because they couldn't adapt themselves to the situation. But I think in spite of so many onslaughts on our culture, if Sanatan Dharma survived until today, because especially knowing that people who have been following Sanatana Dharma have not been assertive. They have led themselves to, they have been too flexible at times. But in spite of that, the Dharma has survived. That is because of the adaptability.
you are absolutely right. And that is something which we
That has
say
become
very
a
much.
strength for us.
Yes,
Yes.
we say this in our work actually, that the
Yeah.
world belongs to those who learn to adapt
Adapt
fastest. It
themselves.
is not survival.
Absolutely.
The Darwinian philosophy of survival of the fittest
Fittest.
was in a
Yes.
particular time. But today, if you realize, the world, those who are knowledgeable and are waiting to survive, dinosaur is an example. The mighty animal did not
Yes.
survive because
So
it
it
could
did
not
not survive.
adapt.
Yes.
And
But the
that is
small cockroaches survived.
correct. So the point here is very important. You raised a very valid point, Girija, that adaptability is key, and that we became too flexible,
Too
and
flexible.
we became
Absolutely.
too much taken for granted. As a
Yes.
result of which, we are losing our moorings. And I use the three words in A:
Yeah.
arise, awaken, and
Act.
assert. Assert
Yes.
yourself. Assertion is
Yes.
nothing wrong. It is about
Absolutely.
pointing out the bleeding obvious, the truth. Sun
Yes.
rises in the east. The degree may change according to the Earth's rotation.
I loved it.
But
Awake, arise, and assert.
yeah,
Loved it. Yes.
arise, awake, and assert yourself now, because this is the time. Technology has enabled us a tool. We could not do
Yes.
this until some years ago, right?
Exactly.
Today,
Now,
we are able
far
to
and
reach
wide,
out
we
to
are
the
able to
world.
talk about this.
Correct.
Yes.
We have to
Yeah.
learn to talk about it. And my experience is that what I find good about Americans is they are
Yeah.
willing to listen. They listen to you.
Right.
That is the
Yeah.
reason why you see a rise of anti-religion in the West,
Right.
because
Yeah.
West has done one thing
Dogmatic.
great, is that they have been great innovators. They have been
Yes.
great entrepreneurs in terms of developing science,
Yes.
treatment for various illnesses, right? It
Yes.
existed in Ayurveda and our way of life. There were Charak and
But
Sushruta
we
and
didn't
Ayurveda.
document them. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
We did not,
created,
rather, I would say, even very huge documents exist, but we did not realize their value. We did not go through them. We did not
true,
publicize them. We did not propagate them.
correct?
That is why we lost.
That's
Like
right.
today, everybody is given curcumin for cancer, but every day in our cooking, we use so much of turmeric,
Correct.
right? So, but then we did not patent that,
We
right?
didn't patent
So
that,
we
yes.
did not
Right.
patent
Mhm.
that. So many of our natural medicines which we use
Right.
every day, we
Correct.
did not patent them
Correct.
until the West told, okay, this is what it is, and then we know, yes, our parents have been saying, and it has worked for us. That
Right.
is why we all have had such good health. Today I was just listening to somebody, and the person was saying, that during COVID, at least the Indians are very well prepared mentally and physically. One is because of the natural food that they have been taking. Secondly, they are used to not a very soft life, so they are okay. The challenges, as they have been able to accept it and go beyond it,
True.
unlike so many Western countries. So the emphasis on diverse experiences and also direct experiences, another belief of Sanatan Dharma, which I think we should talk about. We don't say that your experience I have to trust, I
Right.
have to believe in. Unless I experience something and I'm willing to accept it, you're okay with it. So that is why, I was just reading on the story of somebody called as Kannappa Nayanar. He's from the south. Not many people will know in India also. He was actually just a hunter. He was going along the forest, and then after a very tired hunting day, he was walking along and he saw a small place where there was a Shivalinga. It looked so neat and nice, and he just felt like being there. He just sat next to the Shivalinga and went on talking for some time. And then a sort of unknown peace descended on him. He felt so happy. Then he had some meat, some animal which he had, hunted. He just offered that to Shiva, and then he went home. They, that same day evening, the Brahmin who always comes there and worships, he came there. He said, "Oh God, there is meat over here. How can somebody do this to my Lord Shiva?" He cleaned up the whole place. He kept some flowers and he went away. After the next day itself, again the hunter came there. That day he came there deliberately. He sat along with next to Shiva. He saw that somebody had put flowers. Again, he also, okay, somebody else also liked this. So he also kept his meat and again he went away. The next day when he came, this person, the Brahmin, felt so upset. He began to cry. He said, "Oh God, Shiva, how can somebody do this to you?
Mm.
Somebody is absolutely offering you meat, and this is impurity around your place. How do you tolerate this?" So Shiva came to him and he said, "See, however a person expresses love, his love, I'm ready to accept it." So the person said, "How can that be a gesture of love? He's putting meat around you and it smells so bad." So then Shiva said, "See, this is time for him to come. Just hide in the background and see what happens." And then the hunter came along. Now the hunter comes near the Shiva and then he sits as usual and he's talking with him casually. And then he sees that on one of the eyes there is some redness appearing, and then blood stops dripping. The hunter becomes begins to panic, and then he goes around here and there and he looks for some herbs. He gets some turmeric leaves, he gets some tulsi leaves, he applies all that. The blood doesn't stop. And then he takes out his dagger, and then he takes out his left eye and puts it on the eye, and the bleeding stops. And he's so happy. Oh God. He says, I'm so happy your bleeding stopped. I cannot live without you. And he hugs and he cries and all that. And then after some time, he notices that on the right eye also the bleeding starts. He cannot bear it. And he thinks, oh God, if I take away my right eye, but how will I know where to put it? That is his quest. He doesn't think, how will I know? How will I walk back to my house? He's not worried. How will I know where do I put it? And then he says, okay, fine. I need my two hands to hold my eye and cut it off. But my leg is free. So on one leg he stands and one leg he puts on the right eye of Shiva. And then he cuts off he's about to cut off the right eye. And then Shiva appears in front of him and says, stop it. And then he hugs him. Then Kannappa hugs him and cries this. And then he says, now I'm calling you Kannappa Nayanar. So you are one of the people who will be my Bhakt, whom the whole world will worship. Then the Brahmin also comes out and he says, I can never see this kind of Bhakti. I understand why you called it. So there is no differentiation. Every, diverse experiences, unless one experiences, one doesn't have to believe. That is what Sanatana Dharma says. Through different myths, through different stories, it is so beautifully conveyed.
The story you shared, I did not know about it, but it is an eternal seeking of truth. Like we all learn from each other. Today,
Absolutely.
I learned the story of Kannappa, what you call it,
Kannappa Nayanar.
Kannappa Nayanar, whatever.
Nayanar.
The point is very important to know is that there are stories, realities everywhere. How can I say it is stupid?
Absolutely.
God appeared. But that's what is important to realize is that there is this teaches us a lesson in action and its consequences.
Absolutely.
To put it in the modern language of all of us, every action has a consequence. That's my take from Mahabharata and Ramayana.
Yes.
That's my take from, what the story, what I learned two things from Mahabharata and Ramayana. Like we have many lessons we take. But the thing that stood out for me was the simple fact that you study the text, don't read it. Try to study. That's different between reading and studying. You notice that in Mahabharata and Ramayana, no character has been looked down upon in the narration. No character has been looked down upon. What has been taught to us is that each character does his job, his role, according to the situation that he was in, and that character had to bear the consequences of his act. So whether it is Bhishma Pitama or Dronacharya, Karna, they were all warriors.
Shakuni, yes.
Shakuni, everybody had, but you have to remember, there are characters. These are characters.
That is why, like you rightly said, there is Shakuni and there is Krishna.
Correct.
Both of them do their machinations. They do have their connivance. They do come up with tricks. But then, why do we say that? Why do we worship Krishna and not Shakuni? Probably because the intentions matter.
Correct.
The intentions are so very important, right? Whether you worship Rama or Krishna depends on your value system, what you're looking for in life.
Right.
Everybody went through their suffering, whether it is Ram or whether it is Dasarath, whether it's Krishna. Everybody had to go through their suffering. Like you said, karma. Correct. They had to go through their path. But how they took it? Like Karna also went through it. Krishna also went through it. Ram also went through it. But Shakuni also went through it. But there was so much of bitterness in Shakuni and Karna.
Right.
Whereas Ram and Krishna, they had no bitterness. Right. They accepted the difficulties of life, and probably that gave them the strength to face life with certain value systems.
Correct. Yeah.
So
and
that's something.
Exactly the point. That Shakuni was a mama, right?
Yes.
So now all mamas have to think about whether they want to be a Shakuni like mama or they want to be a better mama. Right?
Yeah,
So
really.
that's the modern
Absolutely.
relevance. And that's the other second part that I wanted to mention to you, that even
Yeah.
Ramayana is the story is the same.
Yeah.
Pran na jaye par vachan na jaye. So Ram understood the commitment that his father had made to his stepmother,
Right.
and he
Exactly.
upholds that dignity. So life
Yes.
lessons, all life lessons are there in these two texts of ours. It's there.
Absolutely.
It's all there. So even Bharat,
Yeah.
for whom his
Yeah.
mother conspired to make him the king, what did he
Yes.
do? He did his own karma
He
by
absolutely. He
telling
didn't
his
even sit
mother,
on the
you
throne.
may
Yeah.
want me to
Exactly.
be the king, but I'm not going to be the king, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to do my duty of upholding my brother's dignity. And he
Yeah.
put his kharao, as they call it in North, the wooden chappal, in the
Yes. He
throne,
brings the paduka. Paduka,
Padika,
we say.
puts it
Paduka.
in the
Yes.
throne and
Yes.
directs their life according to those beliefs that he had,
Principles of
principles
Ram.
that he had.
Absolutely.
That's the important part to remember, that how the
Yes.
value systems drive. Second one,
Yes.
both Ramayana and Mahabharata teaches us a huge lesson, and that you may not have heard, but I'm
Yeah.
sharing this with you because we talked about it in one of the programs. It
Yeah.
taught us that appeasement never works in the modern
Absolutely.
context. Even in
Right.
Ramayana and Mahabharata, how much effort was made to
Yes.
appease Duryodhan? Give
Yes.
me just the 5 point.
Just one village.
Then
Just
one
one
village.
village.
This,
Yeah.
no, I will not. So appeasement, it teaches a life lesson that
Right.
appeasement as a political or social policy doesn't work at all. It only
Absolutely.
leads to more intolerance. And that's the
Very
modern
true.
phrase, intolerance begets more intolerance. So if you
Exactly.
tolerate
Accept
nonsense and
tolerance. Yes.
ridiculous, you will be continuously barraged and hit harder and
Exactly.
harder. And that's where I talk about arise, awaken, and assert. Because
Yes.
that's where the lesson that I took from Ramayana, we all in our lives have to draw our own Lakshman Rekha in our personal conduct, community conduct, social conduct, and a country conduct. So we have to draw a Lakshman Rekha, which Obama called a red line against Syria. Think about that.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
let the red line be violated, and you know the consequences what happened in Syria. So
Yeah.
we have to introduce our concepts of our texts, Sanatan Dharma texts, all the texts that make up our life to
Right.
the world around us. That
Yes.
you tell the person, if you invite me to your house for a good dinner, I will not have I don't have any right to tell you how you should lead your life, how
Absolutely.
what you must do about your decoration of your living room or whatever. I don't have any right.
Yes.
I'm invited. So
Yes.
I must respect that part.
Respect that. Yes.
That's important to remember in the modern terminology. So there is a relevance of Sanatan Dharma is eternal. That's
Very
why it is
true.
called eternal, because it's
That is why.
relevant in every time, every place. Think about it. Whether you are a
Especially
Muslim,
what you talked about appeasement.
right?
You know, that is something so very true. Unless just because you don't want to displease somebody, if you keep on bending, then it is going to become more painful for yourself and for everyone who has been hitching their faith on you,
Correct.
right? Because you have to stand up for what is right.
Correct.
So at some point of time, you will have to displease somebody. We cannot say something that will be accepted by everybody. That is okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so we are not doing anything to displease anybody, to anger anybody, to hurt anybody. Our intentions are very clear.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's
So,
right.
as a policy appeasement, I think we have to, at any point of time, like I always admire when leaders, when there are blackmail, when there is hijacking taking place, and then there is a negotiation going on. At that point of time, it is a huge dilemma. What do I do? But then there are people who have stood up and we said, no, whatever it is, we are not going to accept any negotiation at this point of time. I think, yes, that sends a very strong message.
Correct.
At some point of time, we have got to do it.
This is the modern definition of appeasement is political correctness. Political
Yeah,
correctness. That has
correct.
been the actual reason
Yeah.
that a very deceptive practice has come in our life, and we
Yes.
have become much less truthful in dealing
Yeah.
with the situations. So when you become politically correct, that means you can't tell the truth. It's a very insidious impact of political correctness, which means that you are always having to accommodate the truth and sacrifice truth to accommodate a lie.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When it seeps in our body politic, then the
Absolutely.
behaviors begin to impact us adversely. This is perhaps one of the most significant impacts, that when we refuse, when we give into appeasement, when we give into political correctness, truth
Yes.
becomes a victim. And we have
Yes.
to ensure that that must not happen. There is a Sanskrit slok that says, Satyam Uvach Priyam Uvach. You can tell the truth nicely, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yes.
I give a very simple example. Just because I'm bald
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. That's the truth. But if you call me a baldy, oh, you have no hair, it is insulting. But if you tell
Yes.
me that, hey, despite being bald, you still are attractive, you told the truth, but you said it nicely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
So
And
that's the important part
you
for
don't have to
us
be
to
hurtful.
realize.
Yeah. We have to be mindful of
Mindful,
other
yeah, need
people's.
to be mindful.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
So
And
that's very important. The other thing which I wanted to mention here is political correctness and appeasement. It has never worked anywhere. It brings
absolutely.
about, I mentioned, I repeat that part. So for
Yeah.
us, what is important to remember is that even dharma doesn't tell you to be non-violent all the
Yes.
time.
All the time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We learn that all the time. When you see
Even in
Mahabharat and
Mahabharata and
Ramayana.
Ramayana,
Yes.
there
Ramayana.
came a
Yes.
point in time when war
Right.
was essential.
Yes.
Krishna and Ram had to take up
Both of them.
weapons to
Yes.
protect dharma.
Yeah.
And that's what
Correct.
we people have to realize. We Hindus
Yes.
have to especially realize, whether you are a vegan, vegetarian, or ahimsa ke param pujari. If your family is attacked,
Yes.
you will have to arise. You
Absolutely.
will have to
Very
arise.
true.
If you do not
Yes.
arise, and if you are not in the state of preparedness, then your family's honor will be dishonored.
Absolutely.
That's what is
Very true.
important for us to know, that there is nothing wrong in fighting. You are not always getting to fight, but you have to
Yes.
be prepared to take whatever action is required to protect your dharma. Your dharma
Yeah.
is to protect your family, your community, your country. And that's where it is important for us to stand together. And that's the lesson that you learn from these practices. It is not about abhorring war and being in the state of constant stupor that I'm not
Yeah.
going to fight because I believe in non-violence. No,
Being
that's
peaceful.
wrong.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be in a
You
state
can't
of
go on
living.
showing the other cheek.
Right,
You can't. You can't go on doing that.
right.
Yes. And another beautiful thing about Sanatan Dharma is that it supports involvement of the people, of everyone around,
Right.
like democracy, right? But then it is very, very important to understand where to draw the line. Like, I was just listening to Gurudev, and he was giving a beautiful example about marriage. He said, beautiful marriages are like two straight lines. They both go in the same direction, and they both have the same goal, and they are forever infinite. They can survive infinitely. But the moment they are focused on each other, they are going to cross and go apart. So it is very important, perhaps, for people to realize that in in a community, when we live in a society, our goals have to be the common good. So we'll all go in a parallel base, but as long as the goals are very clear, then our relationship with each other is one of mutual respect. We don't cross the path of each other.
Right. You brought the subject matter of marriage, and
Yeah.
I was sharing that thought, I think, with somebody when I said, marriage is not about you know living happily together all your life. It is also about not having to live unhappily ever after. It's very
Absolutely.
important to realize that,
Yes.
and that's a very good example that marriage, man and woman, are different.
Yes.
So there is a different track for both of us.
Yes.
It's only when
Absolutely.
we try to impinge on others' track, then the
Yes.
clash happens. And
Absolutely.
my
Not
theory is
always
very
focusing on
simple.
each other, policing them. That's not going to help,
So,
right?
the way I describe it is that when you commit to marry a person of your
Yes.
choice, the
Right.
biggest commitment you make in there is that knowing fully that nobody is perfect. We
Absolutely.
all have our own set of you know
Perfections and
inadequacies,
ineffectiveness.
inadequacies, right?
Yes.
We are Nobody is
Yes.
perfect, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to learn to live and accept and love.
Yeah.
Think you hate
Absolutely.
about your spouse.
Yes.
Actually, you must learn
After a
and
period of
respect.
time, you begin to miss those inadequacies if they change.
Yes, accept the other person the way they are. Nobody is perfect, right?
Yeah.
So the
Exactly.
point is that unless and until we accept the imperfection of our partner, our
Absolutely.
spouse, of
Yes.
whoever we choose to marry,
Yeah.
then only harmony comes in. When we talk about
Absolutely.
harmony, is not about likes meeting likes.
Yes.
So as the saying goes, I often say this: there is no end of beautiful women, handsome men, or anybody. But the key part
Yes.
is here I'm using the word beautiful and handsome as an
Yeah.
example, not to say
Yeah.
somebody is not handsome or not good looking is a bad person, but the question is
Yeah.
who gets along well with whom.
Exactly.
if
Yes.
if my personality doesn't match, then the most beautiful woman, I will be miserable.
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
is important to understand. That's
Yeah.
why it is matching of the mind, is matching of the personality. Compatibility is more important than the looks alone. That's the message which I'm trying to convey. So,
Absolutely.
Tom Cruise and famous Australian actress, they split. There
Yeah.
is split every day
So
happening.
many examples like
So
this. So
many
many
examples.
examples.
So
Yes.
that
They
is
look
the other
perfect
thing we have to
together
remember.
for the
So we
outside
don't
world.
live
Yes.
in a false world of
Yes.
our nocturnal belief, as I would prefer to call it, but accept the reality. But one of the most important things about Sanatana, we are running out of time now.
Yeah.
So one of the things which I wanted to mention here is that a lot of people, particularly Hindus, we are become apathetic.
Yes.
It's not for me, so let it go.
Very, very important. Yes.
We
How
have
does it
to
affect
remain
me?
engaged and involved with ourselves first,
Exactly.
our
Yes.
family, our community. We have to remain engaged. If we do not
Exactly.
remain engaged, then we lose out on our community part of it. So, because we are all societal animals, we learn in
Very
the
true.
community we live in. Our culture is a function of the community or location or lifestyle that we live in. And that's what is important for all of us to remain engaged, connected.
Yes.
Otherwise, I fear we Sanatanis will have a beautiful life of our own, but will become irrelevant.
Extinct. Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
will become
Absolutely.
irrelevant. And it's
Yeah.
not that 1.3 billion Hindus will evaporate overnight, but
Yeah.
we will no longer be part of the process of engagement. So today, when
Right.
I hear when Christians say, "Oh, Christians are under threat, Islam is under threat," but surprisingly enough, Hindus never talk about being under threat. Have you heard about
Yeah.
that? But
No.
they
And
we
it is
are
the third largest
definitely
language.
are
Islam and Christians are not
exactly
first and second. We
correct.
are the
So
third
what I'm
largest
saying
language, and they are the first and second.
exactly
Still, they feel
what
threatened.
correct. So what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that we have to become engaged, relevant, and bring
Yes.
about it in our life and talk about it. If we don't talk about
Absolutely.
it, then how will anybody know? The
Yeah.
propagation of our philosophy, the world needs to know. And considering science and technology, we can reach the world through any means available to us. So,
Yeah.
any questions you have heard, or you have any participation that
No, actually,
you comment?
today there is there are very less questions.
Hmm,
Uh, it is up to us how we see it, suffering or experience. But karma is not suffering. These are it is only educational and meant for soul evolution. So people have just expressed their opinion.
that's fine. They're
Yeah.
absolutely welcome to express their
Questions.
thought. But the point
Yes.
of the matter is that your thought is share your thought.
Share
Because
the
this
thoughts and
conversation only
accept
be a
each
good
other's
thought.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes.
right,
Everybody is welcome to share the thoughts, and they are so beautiful.
right.
Absolutely. Because it comes out of one's own experience,
That's
right?
true.
As long as I do not question your experience and put down your experience, that's
Right.
fine. And the last thing that I also wanted to discuss about Sanatan Dharma, and we can just close it very quickly with this because we are running short of time. You have the next show. And this gives us fun ways to engage with us, to get together for personal and spiritual growth. Like all our festivals are built around nature, like Makar Sankranti. It is celebrated in different ways. Say in Karnataka, it is celebrated differently. In Tamil Nadu, it is celebrated differently. In Bengal, it is, but everybody celebrates it because
Right.
it is the beginning of the longer days, right?
Right.
So people celebrate that. So that is a all built around nature. So we understand that nature is something so important. All of us believe that we have to live close to nature. All of us believe that there is a beauty in diversity. So is somewhere where they will use jujuba fruit, and somewhere they will use sugar cane, and somewhere they are using jaggery, whichever is available as
Right.
per the location where they are, and they celebrate it. And there is so much beauty in that diversity of practice, right? But
Absolutely.
we still respect each other, and like holy. So Sanatana Dharma, it gives us opportunity for engagement, involvement, getting involved in like certain ethical, moral situations, and taking the right path and taking the stand of what is right, which is the most beautiful thing that we all have to make use of. Like you said,
That's right.
it is absolutely, we cannot just let things be apathetic. We cannot be saying, okay, that is happening to somebody else. Today it is, there is fire in in the next house, it's not going to take a minute to come to your place. That's it. If you're just coming, standing there and watching the fun,
Right. Right.
it is going to come to your door anytime.
As
So
a
this
famous
is,
architect, Gaudi, the
yeah.
Spanish architect Gaudi said
Hmm.
something very, very profound. He
Okay.
said, there is nothing to discover or nothing to invent because it's
Hmm.
all there in nature. You have to
Yes.
observe and follow. So whether it's a color
Yeah.
combination, shape, sizes, everything
Everything.
serves a purpose of
Yeah, that is the
ecological
beauty of
balance.
Sanatan Dharma, that we realize that everything in the universe has got its own consciousness, it has got its own intelligence, and
Correct.
it works with this own intelligence. So we don't have to devise it. Nature has something like COVID came, and then we found that so many parts of the world, nature has sprung back to its original beauty. Whatever was
Right.
lost because of pollution, or because of the emissions from various vehicles and all that, now we find that we have, the clock is set
We
back by
saw
another
we
10
saw the
years.
birds and the animals come over to the civil life.
Come over to the roads, exactly, and flowers
Girijaa,
where there were no
we had a
flowers.
wonderful
Absolutely.
conversation. I'm delighted to
Yes.
have shared this moment. And thank
Yes.
you, viewers, whoever is watching or whoever will watch in the future. So
Absolutely.
learn,
Look forward to
express.
the next week, and
Yes,
let us take this message: awake, arise, and assert.
yes.
This is the beautiful message for
Thank
today.
you.
And
Thank
that is the strength, that whatever we have, the Sanatana Dharma gives us the strength to do that.
you.
Awake, arise, and assert, my dear friends. Meet you next Thursday.
Thank you.
We have a
Thank
special
you.
guest next week. We will announce. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vibhuti. It was my pleasure.
My
Thank you.
pleasure too. It's a great teaming up. Take care.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Varun, for this opportunity.
Right.
Thank you. So I'll end the broadcast.
Yes, please.
Bye.